And joining me now is health and wellness advocate Corey Smith. Corey, welcome to BNC.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Yes, we're happy to have you too to talk about this. So Simone Biles is obviously taking a break from the game, citing mental stress. From the outside looking in, most people don't see the pressure these athletes are put through and what they face every day, right? So how does mental health actually affect them?
Well, we all have to understand that our brains are a part of our bodies, and we need to make sure that it's in top shape, just like the rest of our physical bodies. And we see that with athletes, with their physical appearance being of the highest quality, and we don't see how their mind works. But most importantly, all athletes, as well as each one of us, are human. We have a point of reaching our limits, and I believe that Simone has shown the epitome of strength and bravery by taking this step back.
Yeah, and she said, I, I didn't want to force my body this time to take on that type of pressure. I just didn't have to do it and do it for everyone else, and that's what they are used to doing. So, you talk about them always wanting to win. That is always the objective for athletes, but then there's also that added pressure of losing as well. Are athletes encouraged to actually talk out their problems?
Well, I think that it's happening more now, and not even that they have to be encouraged. I believe that they're encouraging each other. For example, DeMar DeRozan, he has expressed depression in the midnight hours, 3 a.m. He tweeted about the severity of his depression at that time. And I believe that when people start opening up about their own personal issues, especially when it's a person of celebrity status, it helps us to understand and know the humanity of us all, and that it's okay to not be okay. And more importantly, that there are resources available. So through their strength and speaking out, they have also opened the door for others to learn more about the resources that are available. You don't have to suffer in silence. You're not alone. You're not the only one who feels the way you feel, but we need to be able to know that by people being willing to share their stories.
And Corey, about how many of them suffer in silence?
Well, we have a tremendous amount. I just read an article about Ben. He used to be Rod Benson. He was a player overseas in basketball, and he learned in retirement the significance of mental health. And he spoke on Kyrie Irving and how Kyrie had been criticized for taking a step back, taking a mental health break, and knowing when he needed to stop. And what's important is for us not to wait until we're in stage 4, when you're in the epitome, in the extreme crisis, and then you're trying to get help, or you don't, and it can end in a very tragic way. So it's important for us to recognize when we're feeling, off, feeling not our normal selves, and that we seek the help that's available. So there's a number of athletes who've expressed this, but they may not have learned it or acknowledged it until after retirement. Like Lionel Aldridge, he played for the Green Bay Packers in the 60s. He started showing symptoms in his 30s, but it wasn't until he stopped playing that he was actually diagnosed with schizophrenia. There's also Herschel Walker that was open in his memoir about his own severe mental illness. And so there are a number of athletes who talk about it later when they don't have that spotlight on them. But now we have athletes who are talking about it when they're on the world's largest stage, like the Olympics, and speaking out and being willing to take a stand and knowing that it's for the greater good. And in this case, Simone Biles showing the importance of her team and her being one part of a team, and that they could fulfill whatever gap that may have been left open with her taking a step back.
And she admitted, she said she fell off when she was going out there. So we know also that it can be easy to mask mental stress. What signs should coaches and parents look out for if they suspect an athlete is having a mental breakdown?
I absolutely think that it's so important for those who are the caregivers or coaches, parents, to recognize when their child or their player is not being their normal selves. For example, being withdrawn, not eating, sleeping too much, staying up late, having insomnia, loss of appetite. There are a number of things that show us that we're not our normal selves or doing the things we would normally do. And I believe one of the biggest things is detachment from your engagement with other people, more preferring to be isolated. And if that's not your norm, a coach is able to pick up on that. Like Keon Dooling, his coach was able to pick up on the things that started to be not a part of Keon's normal everyday life. And ultimately that led to the Keon getting treatment and being hospitalized, but treated. And that's what's important. We have to reduce the stigma associated with mental health challenges. They're just like physical health challenges, like diabetes or heart disease. We want people to get treatment for that, and so they can live the highest quality of life possible.
Yeah, it's a blessing when they get to the point of doing the treatment versus committing suicide. And you touched on this a little bit earlier about there
Yes.
being a number of resources out there. What more can be done on a professional level to help athletes with mental health issues?
Incorporating it in the overall professional development, personal development for any employee, whether it's an athlete in a corporation, in a nonprofit organization, it's essential to have that as a part of your mental health program or insurance services, first of all. And then secondly, just as a part of the resources that you have available to your employees without stigma, and having the opportunity to have confidential resources. For example, anybody can text NAMI, NAMI, to 741-741, which reaches the National Alliance on Mental Illness. You don't have to have a disorder. Any challenge that you may be facing in your thoughts, in the way that you're making your decisions, and you want help with that, you can have confidential help. You can also go to NAMI.org, NAMI.org, and there are a number of organizations that are focused on being culturally competent, like Beam, Black Emotional Mental Wellness Organization, as well as the Mental Wellness Alliance that Charlemagne de God founded. Taraji P. Henson started the Boris Henson Foundation, which is set and focused on providing free counseling services for our youth. So I encourage people to learn more about the resources that are available, the number of organizations that provide free and confidential information, and you can do a mental health assessment with Mental Health America, going to their website at mentalhealthamerica.org, and you could do a confidential assessment. It doesn't mean that anything is wrong, but in the words of B.B. Moore Campbell, you need to have a checkup from the neck up. That includes all of your physical exams, including your mental state. So I encourage people to do that.
Well, we know there's nothing wrong with talking to a therapist. I talk to one every week. Corey, we appreciate
Yeah.
your time. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for weighing in on this.
Thank you very much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Of course.